Well, we love featuring artists you should know about on the show, and today we're heading to Cody, Wyoming to chat with singer-songwriter Kalyn Beasley. Kalyn's an acclaimed songwriter, storyteller, singer, and musician. His 2022 album, A Matter of Time, was nominated for Album of the Year at the Josie Music Awards. He was the recipient of the 2023 Performing Arts Fellowship, given annually to 2 Wyoming-based musicians. He's got 3 albums out. His latest single, That's All She Wrote, is out now. You can catch Kayln Thursday night performing it live at 5 in Billings. We're stoked to have Kalyn Beasley on the show. First, Kayln, thanks so much for coming on.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, you grew up in Cody. You moved to Bozeman to go to MSU. You said if you didn't move there, you wouldn't be a singer-songwriter. So what happened to you in Bozeman to get you singing?
That's a great question. I was living in Bozeman, and I was rodeoing a little bit and starting to play guitar, and I was getting hurt a lot riding bucking horses, and playing guitar just kind of occupied more and more of my time as I got less interested in getting thrown off wild horses. And one thing led to another, and put together a band, and that's just kind of how it happened. Moved down to Austin, Texas, and then was down there for a couple years, and then I relocated back to my hometown of Cody.
Yeah, and what, your parents own a bookstore, and now do you run it, or what's going on?
Yeah, so me and my mom run Legends Bookstore at downtown Cody, Wyoming, and when I moved back to back home, my mom had just retired, and she kind of had some extra time and energy and wanted to open up a retail shop, and I was back in town not doing a whole lot, and so we opened up Legends, and we've been there for 9 years since we opened up.
Wow. Because how's the bookstore business?
It's an interesting business. Nobody's getting rich at the store, you could say, but I find the value at the store much greater for the community than anybody's financial gain individually out of the store. But we've got a really great little tourist town. Of course, a lot of your listeners have been over to Cody. Summertime around here It gets pretty nuts, and I think that not just for the locals, but the tourists, they find it kind of cool to walk into a small Western bookstore like ours, and they're traveling, so they either need stuff for their kids or for them, and we provide that. And like I was saying, we also provide it for our community too in the off season, and we're really just grateful to have such a welcoming community that really will support something like a bookstore in this day and age, because it's not obviously happening everywhere.
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's probably nice you're in Wyoming still. You got a little bit of small town feel, because, running a bookstore now is like running a CD store.
Yeah, it can be. It's a little bit like, it is a little bit like a record store. It's a certain kind of person that wants to go in and peruse the titles, and that's sort of the nice, beautiful thing I think about a bookstore, is that you don't often know what you're looking for. And, our store is curated not only by me and my mom and our employees, but also the community in which we live, recommendations we hear from our customers, different things we hear and listen to on the internet. And that's really the awesome thing about a small bookstore, is you can really curate it any way you want. And then people, have the opportunity to go in there and potentially find something, more often than not than they didn't even know that they wanted.
Yeah. Well, A Matter of Time is your third album. Northerner came out in 2016. So when did all this start rolling for you?
Oh boy. So those are my solo projects. I had done a previous project. I was telling you a little earlier about moving down to Austin with a band. We had crowdfunded a record project and managed to go down to Nashville and make a really great record. Unfortunately, I was so green in my singing and writing career that those amazing generous folks that donated all that money really kind of went to nothing more than my own personal improvement as an artist, because that band fell apart and that album is essentially lost to time and space. But having gone down to Austin, moved back, played a lot of bar gigs, just solo stuff, I was starting to write, some stuff that was a little bit more folky, country, and personal to me and my experience of living out west and up in Wyoming in particular. And, I made that Northerner record in Red Lodge, super low budget record with a good friend of mine who's no longer around. And I'm real proud of that record. Again, it's an early iteration. I think as an artist, you kind of have to have some grace with yourself at what age and stage you're making music at, that's where you're at, and you can only, improve from there. And I made another record called Frontier News in 2018 or 19. I think it was 2019. And that was just a solo acoustic record, just songs I needed to get out and wanted to, again, sort of timestamp my life a little bit. This is what I sound like. This is what the material I'm interested in writing, and just get that out. And that was, like I said, it was a solo acoustic record, but I think a lot of people kind of found me through that record. And then up to A Matter of Time, that was, a larger budget, full band, fully produced record I did down in Texas. So that was a huge step from not just Frontier News, but a giant leap from Northerner. So, that record really is kind of where I'm at right now, because I just put that one out about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and you've been all over the place since then. I mean, when did the Honky Tonk Arcade, when did all these guys come into play?
That's a great question, because it sort of relates to A Matter of Time, the last record I put out. Like I said, it was a full band record. So, and I wasn't a full band artist for 8 or 9 years. I really was just touring solo, playing breweries and restaurants and bars for years, just sort of telling my stories and singing my songs. But I kind of felt like if I wanted to make another jump, I needed to make a full band record that, could be played on radio. Yeah. And after I did that, I used studio musicians, so I still didn't have a band. And then I got into a music festival in Boise in early 2023. And around November, I started shopping for the rest of the band, a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player, and found them. And we rehearsed all winter long leading up to March to our first gig. And we still didn't really have a name. And so the Honky Tonk Arcade sort of came out of that whole necessity that I now suddenly had to, play this record more like how it sounds rather than just going around and playing it solo. So that's where the Honky Tonk Arcade came from.
Wow. So you've done a lot in the last year, taking it to the next level, that's for sure. So that's got to be exciting.
It has. And I think that's one of the things I kind of found is that I'm not saying I peaked or anything as a solo individual artist, but my opportunities for gigs had kind of narrowed, because people may have wanted to hire me for something, but what they needed really for their event was not just the music I was making, but quite a bit more sound as well. Yeah. And you've been to shows where there's an acoustic opener for a major band, and the band comes out and it really dwarfs the sound of anybody just out there with a guitar and their voice. And so ever since we kind of got rolling last March of 23, things just kind of kept going, and I really just more or less stopped playing, songs by myself individually. I still do songwriter festivals. In fact, I have one coming up this weekend down in Colorado. And I really love doing that because I get to exercise my songwriting chops and storytelling chops. But I've really enjoyed playing with the boys in the arcade. And they're a great band. They're out of Red Lodge, Montana. And Red Lodge is just about 60 miles north of us here in Cody. So I get up there and we rehearse at least once a week and have a really good time. We're all really good buddies. And, it's just been awesome having the band. And it seems like it is picking up a little bit more steam.
Yeah, go check out Kaylyn. He's at KalynBeasley.com. He's on Facebook, Instagram. His latest single, That's All She Wrote, is out now, and he's in Billings Thursday night for Alive After 5. If you go to his website, you can check out all of his dates. Man, Red Lodge, it's crazy. Is everybody that live in Red Lodge a musician?
You've been to Red Lodge, it sounds like.
Well, I've interviewed a ton of people. It's like everybody there's not a lot of people there. I'm like, is everybody a musician in Red Lodge? It's crazy.
It's wild, Jeff. I love that you bring that up because I think a lot of people don't realize about that town. It's only about 2,000 or 2,500 people, but I'll bet it has a higher per capita rate of musician than any other town I've ever heard of. I mean, it really is. It's kind of a hippie cowboy ski town. And
Yeah.
so you get a lot of folks that live that sort of lifestyle, whether it's, working at the ski hill or just, that come from out here and are Western folks. And a lot of times both those groups play music. And so you go down to the Snow Creek Bar on Tuesday night, which we'll probably go down tonight after we're done rehearsing. And there's the open mic night at the Snow Creek is incredible because, it's a bar full of people and probably over half of them are signed up to play or play in bands or tour with other groups or, it's a huge music hotbed. It's really actually a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've interviewed Americana guys, country guys, reggae guys. I mean, it's just all over the place in Red Lodge, but it's kind of cool. I mean, it says Americana on your website. Are you going more country or is our sound set? Where are we heading?
That's the beautiful thing about calling yourself Americana, because that's a pretty big umbrella to be under, right? I mean, Americana's sort of taken the place of, and not necessarily taken the place, but a lot of times people that aren't played on mainstream radio can kind of sit underneath that banner of Americana because it covers, roots music and country music and folk and Appalachian music and Western music and rock and roll is in there too. And so that's kind of a nice place to be. I've always kind of considered myself a country artist just because I'm from the country, and no matter what song I sing, it usually sounds pretty country. But as a writer, as an artist, I really like a lot of different kinds of music, and it ultimately feeds into what I'm writing, whether it sounds more Western or more folky or at times, especially with the band, a lot of the guys in the band are they like country, but, where their heart is, it's a little bit more rock and roll. So a lot of my songs, the way we take them with the band, sometimes they have a little heavier sound to them because of the way the band plays. And that's also the beauty of a band, is that everybody's influence is sort of leached through the music, and it ultimately creates this beautiful, combination of sounds that, again, the best phrase to probably name it would just be Americana music.
Yeah. Well, I saw you opened some dates for Chancey Williams. You're playing with Kellen Smith on a few dates. Is this your Wyoming connection? Is this rodeo connection? How?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know how small this state is, Jeff. Everybody knows each other. Like, if you play guitar halfway seriously, I probably know who you are, and at least I know who you are, and there's a really good chance I know you personally too. So can't hardly swing a dead cat in Wyoming without running into somebody anyways. But the actual musician community is pretty small, and I grew up with Chancey. He was starting to play music when we were rodeoing at the same time. And this has got to be, close to 20 years ago now that we met, when we were both rodeoing. He was really just starting to play music. And then, with Kellen, same kind of deal. We were more peripheral friends than anything for years, just because we had so many common connections. And then, got to know each other better through mutual friends. And I think that's the great thing about Wyoming too, is we all support each other. There's not enough of us for anybody to be particularly competitive. So most people just jump on everybody else's bandwagon and rows the same way.
Yeah, it's awesome too to go out there and support each other. So that's cool. I mean, congratulations! You won the 2023 Performing Arts Fellowship for Wyoming musicians. So what do you win?
It was primarily a monetary prize. It wasn't like it was a ton of fanfare or a medal or anything like that. What it really did was it was more of like like I said, it was a chunk of money that was to be used at my discretion, whether it was buying new equipment or going off and recording. And the Wyoming Arts Council puts that together, and they've been amazing to musicians over however long they've been doing it. But to me in particular, like the last 4 or 5 years have spun my songs down on WPR, and the doors, perpetually open for artists to go in there and talk to Grady and sing their songs, and then with the Wyoming Arts Council, they work together a lot too, and so to kind of give that chunk of money to musicians, I kind of referred to it as jet fuel. I can only do so much by myself, and I have, obviously with my job at the bookstore, I contribute a lot of that money towards my music career, but to get kind of a shot in the arm to go out and, if I need to buy something, or if I need to pay for some recording or some press material or graphics or anything like that just allowed me to do that a little bit easier. And so super grateful to the Wyoming Arts Council. They do a really great job of helping their state artists. It's a pretty amazing little thing they're doing.
Yeah, that's great because, like you said, it's not cheap. He's being humble about it. It's not cheap to be recording music, to travel around. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not cheap. You really do it because you love it. I mean, ultimately, you do it for enough years, and you get some fans that kind of consistently come out and see you and buy your merchandise and tell other people about you, and that's kind of how things get rolling. But when you're starting out, even at the level I'm at, you really kind of just break even most of the time after everything, and so you really just do it because something in you drives you and you have to do it, because otherwise there's a lot better ways to make money than selling books and playing guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Go and support Kaylyn. Is it KalynBeasley.com. He's on Facebook, Instagram. He's going to be in Billings on Thursday, and then he's down in Colorado. He's coming up to Red Lodge here pretty soon. He's actually going to be in Sheridan on July 12th. Well, when you see Beasley, we've got Justin Beasley around here. I saw even somebody on Facebook asked you, are you related to Justin Beasley?
Yes. It kind of depends on who's asking, but yes, that's my dad. And I actually spent a lot of time over in Buffalo growing up, because when my folks split up, he moved over to Buffalo, and I spent a lot of time in that neck of the woods. I still love coming over there. I was actually just coming over there a couple weeks ago. We had Craig Johnson sign a bunch of books for us at him and his wife's shop down there. And
nice.
Buffalo holds a really special place for me. I just spent a lot of time growing up there. It's a beautiful little town, and still have a lot of family and friends over there. My little brother, he's listening on the radio this morning too with my two little nieces. So I jump over there as often as I can.
Awesome. Well, there's a song on A Matter of Time, Not Forget the Words. This is a cool song. Tell us about this song.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite songs, and probably a song that kind of got overlooked on that record. Fortunately, I'll have people that come up that have listened to the record, and of all the songs, they'll talk about that one. And that's probably personally my favorite song I've ever written. And it just really illustrates what a lot of us go through, singers and songwriters and people playing, especially the solo people out there just kind of beating the road and playing to very few folks that are listening at all. A lot of times we play a bar or a brewery and there's like a TV that's got a football game on right above our head, and it can be really disheartening experience. And just playing in bars, the whole alcohol factor is there. And so yeah, that song was written from one experience of playing a particular bar in Wyoming, where I walked in. There was 4 cowboys sitting at the bar. They turned around, looked at me long enough to see me walk in, turned right back around to their beers, and I sat there and played my songs for 3 or 4 hours. And then I packed up my stuff, and that was the second time they ever even glanced at me, was me packing my stuff out the door. And it was kind of a pivotal point for me, just thinking about how depressing it was. Probably made like, $50 or $100 for my labor there, and didn't even have, anybody that cared. And so that experience sort of leached into that song. But yeah, thanks for asking about that one. That's probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written. Certainly my most favorite off that record.
Yeah, go and check it out. It's off the new one, or the latest one, A Matter of Time, Not Forget the Words. Well, early on, you didn't have the mustache. When did the mustache come into play?
I need to update all my press photos. I've had the mustache. I've had the mustache for about 5 or 6 years, I guess. And I don't know. I can't grow any other facial hair, and so maybe it's just my own personal way of rebelling against it. All my friends can grow beards, and I'm in my 30s and can barely grow facial hair. My dad rocks a pretty legendary mustache, so it's probably just a little tribute to him.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was probably in my mid-30s before I could really grow a beard, or I don't even know if I still can grow a full beard, but yeah, so I feel your pain. I imagine you've played in Sheridan. I mean, you're going to be here July 12th. You and Kellen Smith are going to be at the Mint Bar Street Dance for Wyo Rodeo, so that'll be cool. I'm
really looking forward to that. I've never played the Wyo Street Dance before. I've been to it many, many times, and it's just one of those great Wyoming events, the Wyo Rodeo, the whole week there in Sheridan, and so yeah, they set up that show this winter, and I'm just tickled to be able to play that show with Kellen. He's a good buddy, and I love his songs. I think we have a pretty good friendship. We went on tour down to Texas here a couple weeks ago with another friend of ours, Dano Smith and Nate Kissick, and just did a tour down through Oklahoma and Texas, and it was a lot of fun. And this will obviously be a different deal with both of our bands, and thousands of raging rodeo fans on the streets of Sheridan. But I think the Mint's doing a pretty good. It looks like the lineup's pretty stacked for Thursday, Friday, Saturday down there. So I think people can expect a really good weekend of shows there at the Mint. And there's music all over town, too, in Sheridan. You won't have to walk far before you run into somebody playing on stage. No, and it just keeps getting bigger every year. So it'll be awesome. Well, the new one, That's All She Wrote. Where'd you get this actress? I mean, you this is a big video here, Kaylyn. It's sweet. We talked about making a music video, and if you listen to the song, it's very self-explanatory. With That's All She Wrote, there's no hidden meaning behind it. It's just about a guy he's not sure if his lady is gone or if she's long gone, but either way, she's not around anymore. And so in the band, that's kind of, again, sort of the nice thing about a band. You get to bring in, a whole 4 or 5 guys, groups of acquaintances, family members, and his Wells, our guitar player, his cousin had been working in L.A. for a long time and now lives back in Red Lodge, and his girlfriend is also an actress and was an actress in Red Lodge. They had moved back to Red Lodge so they could actually, sort of in the same way that musicians do it, you can do a little bit better financially if you're in a smaller town. So she, we'd written up that script. We got on a Zoom call with her, and they showed us all the Hollywood ropes because they had done it all before, big productions, and we had obviously a very small budget. We did have a professional cameraman, and he knew what he was doing. But yeah, we got a legitimate Hollywood actress to be our leading lady in this really cool little video we made this winter. So that was a first for me. I've never made a music video before, but we're actually getting ready to cut another one. We've got some songs coming out this summer, so we're going to keep doing that because I think it's pretty good promotional for songs. It seems. Oh yeah, and it's a great video. Where's this Luoma farm and this 9 Lazy M Ranch? Was this in Red Lodge? And Cody, where'd you film this? That's in Red Lodge. So our drummer Levi Loma, he has a big hay farm up there in Red Lodge. When he's not drumming, he grows hay and sells it all over the nation. And so we did some of the shots in front of the tractor. That was all done at his farm. And then the 9 Lazy M, that's in Red Lodge too. That's our buddy Wells's family ranch. And so, those guys they're kind of those guys that grow up in small towns and live a really pretty ranchy life, but never want to really do it for the rest of their lives. So, we have amazing access to properties that we'd never otherwise get to just because of where how those guys grew up and where. So, we got to use both those spots. Yeah, it's awesome video. Go and check it out. That's All She Wrote. Kalyn Beasley and the Honky Tonk Arcade. And go and check him out. Support him. Go to KalynBeasley.com and check out all of his dates. And he's going to be in Sheridan at the Wyo Rodeo on July 12th. He's up in Billings coming up Thursday night at Alive After 5. Well, Kaylyn, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you, Jeff. This has been a great interview. I really appreciate the time, and thanks to all the listeners. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday.
And here it is. That's all she wrote. It's Kalyn Beasley. It's KIX 96.5.